Good morning and welcome to episode 74 of Talking to Artists. So very excited today. Well, Talking to Artists, basically for people who don't know by now, after 74 episodes, you probably should. But Talking to Artists is really a casual conversation with artists, art galleries, art collectors, to understand a little bit more about what's going on behind the scenes of the art world, artist inspiration, their business tips, things like that. So very excited, and I really love all of my chats with all of the people I've had the lucky to that I've been blessed to interview. Oh my God, obviously the brain is not working very well. So just one more thing too quickly. Next week I'm going on vacation, so there will be no Talking to the Artists for the first time in about a year and a half. But I just feel like I need a bit of a time to chill and to take a bit of a break. So that will be next week. But this week, I'm really excited to talk once again to my sister, who was my very first interview. She was my guinea pig. And we're really going to talk about the family garden show that we just had at Leslie Grove Gallery, to talk about collaboration and what we've learned. So I'm just going to jump right on and invite her to join me. Let me see. Why is that a problem? Oh my goodness, my phone is giving me troubles today. There she is. All right. It's one of those days. Technology is not working in my favor. Hey! Long time no see.
Yeah, how's it going?
Oh, good. I was just saying, I'm kind of feeling a bit burnt out after all the shows we did, and then, our family garden, and then I'm the feature artist at Petrov starting today, so I feel like I need a vacation, which always seems crazy to say when you have such a great job like producing art, but anyway.
Yeah.
So I'm not doing a session next week.
So what involves when you're the feature artist at Petrov, does that mean that you'll be there?
No, because there's still, I guess, restrictions with people that can go into the retail spaces, but it means I produced, I think, 7 new paintings, and I'm trying to get one more finished. I don't know if I will, a 60 by 48, so we'll see.
Wow. Yeah. I guess all big stuff too. Yeah.
Well, yeah, it's funny because the bigger panels have been harder to get, and they're harder, of course, to kind of move around between the cottage and the city. But so I've been working kind of a bit smaller, like 36s, 40s, but everyone seems to want big stuff now. So that's what I'm working on now. Yeah. Well, and I finally delivered a big one. Sorry?
I hope the sound quality is okay. I have these earbuds I haven't tried yet this way, but I can hear you very well. And
yeah, no, you're totally good. You're loud, so you're perfect. Yeah.
Oh, good. I feel like you're a bit loud too. I think I'm going to see if I can turn it down a little bit. Anyways, it's good to see you.
Yeah, good to see you too. I know. I can't believe we spent like 5 weeks together, but I feel like it's been forever since I've seen you.
I know. I was kind of lonely when I came home because I live Jack is coming and going, so he's not here all the time. And I was like, I kind of miss everybody.
I know, but I felt like that too, because I think we just did so much stuff together. It reminded me of when I had the kids at home too. So even just basic stuff like you'd go to the store for some milk and you have some company, and
It's so true. Yeah,
it was nice. But I did really love painting with you too, though. I think we've done it a little bit, but not really to such an extended time, which I think for me was just quite fascinating.
It was good, and it was in the past. It's always been a bit just a fun thing to do at the cottage, and so it hasn't really been as important that they turn out to be really good. So that was challenging too, because it's always a bit of a rinky-dink studio situation at the cottage, because now you have a great studio there, but in the past it's been you kind of make do, and
Yeah, like a piece of plywood and a couple of sawhorses outside, and you get like bugs that land in your paintings and stuff like that. But for people who don't know, we probably should talk a little bit about, Family Garden, Converging Harmonies is something that has been kind of in the works, I think, for about a year, right? Like in terms of thinking about really wanting to do something that was really collaborative. And of course, our work is quite different, but we know that it's
looks good together because we show them together, which I think is always a good thing. And I think, I don't know about you, but my original kind of thought was that we would actually work on the same panels and send them back and forth. But that obviously pretty quickly became completely
Impractical.
impractical.
And really
Yeah.
expensive. Yeah, to ship back and forth. Because, yeah, we're like 2,000 kilometers apart or something. I'm not sure exactly, but it's pretty far.
Yeah. Well, I think the other thing, too, at the end of the day, just from a business practical sense, too, is that we might have really enjoyed the experience, but we then each have a body of work that is really difficult, I think, to know where it fits, right? Like, I know, Kat Tesla and I talked to her and Talking to Artists, she did a collaboration. They had a special show that just showed those pieces, which is also cool, but
yeah,
I don't know. I think
it
was enough of a challenge the way we did it.
Maybe on smaller scale works, because then it isn't such an investment, because especially during COVID right now, and with the framing, and like you were having such a difficulty finding panels, and so they gained a little bit of preciousness that they haven't had in the past, which was kind of weird too. So it's like, it's my only panel that's 24 by 60 I'm going to be able to get unless I drive to Ottawa or Montreal or something. So,
that was hard. I think there were a couple things for me that were a real challenge. First of all, having the structure of having to stay within the 60-inch depth, which I have to say looked phenomenal. So I'm so glad that we pursued that and continued to do that. But it was a real challenge for me to get those panels, not only so that they had really great wood grain, but there also were 60 inches in sizes that weren't necessarily easy to just go out and buy. I mean, even if you could just go out and buy them.
Well, and even as you did source them out, I remember they were different depths. So then it was like, make sure the framing can't all be consistent. We have to really know what the heck we're going to have there. So,
yeah.
It was true.
And so to start, sorry? No, you go.
I was going to say, I did make a couple of notes because I thought, I'm just going to yap at Kate and we're not going to talk about the show. So I had to make sure I stayed on the track. But I sort of made a note sort of saying that I feel like we did fluctuate between harmony and disharmony in the course of making the things come together, because I found, we both experienced sometimes when we were trying a bit too hard at the beginning to maybe be a bit more like the other artists' work, so it would look good together, but then we kind of got out of our own groove and felt like we were just not being very good artists because we didn't know what we were doing a bit. And then, so that was good to kind of work through and then be like, no, it's okay. I can just be myself and we're going to find ways to overlap and complement each other without trying to look like the other artist, or
I found that too. And I think it was interesting as well how obviously you do something like this because it kind of pushes your boundaries a little bit, which is always a good thing. But I did find I went through that stage of kind of pushing boundaries and then trying to modify my style at such a point that, I wasn't really happy with the lines and the shapes. And then you're like, I don't want to be the side that lets the show down. Like Helen's work looks amazing and mine looks like it's a hodgepodge of crap,
Oh, I don't want to do that. No, it's true. You're accountable. You don't want to let the other person down. I started painting on these, seriously, I think it was like December or January. I started these so long ago, but I was working on lots of other things at the same time. So it was, I was picking them up and putting them down and stuff. But I think the ones that broke new ground for me, that I was trying to be a bit more like your work in the sense of covering less of the canvas with detail, were the horizontal ones, where I just tried to do like a colorful wash and leave most of the that stuff exposed, and then only really paint detail on about 20% of the picture. So those were kind of I was really happy with the way they turned out, and I wouldn't have done those otherwise.
Yeah, no, I love them. And, there was somebody who had a comment that was just saying that, first of all, we should kind of clarify that we had no disharmony actually between the two of us working together, which after 5 weeks of living in each other's pockets, being sisters is pretty amazing.
Yeah. I think so too.
um,
Yeah,
but but she's right that I think there's an honesty there and a love there that allowed us also to kind of go, that's kind of not working, Helen, or Kate, that part looks terrible.
it's
And I
true.
think you know, and I think that
We,
was important. That's what I really have missed, I think, in isolation is getting some of that critical feedback that is specific and practical and helpful to moving the piece along, versus something's not working. I'm like, yeah, I know, I can tell something's not working, but I need help to isolate what it is sometimes.
yeah, yeah, it's so true. I made a note about that too, but just I think I sort of yeah I lost my train of thought. I think it was just that yeah, we were able to just be honest with each other and not worry about like hurting each other's feelings, because I think we both sort of have a bit of a sense of humor too about stuff, and we know each other so well that you
Yeah,
could say something pretty blunt but then like laugh afterwards.
yeah,
Just be like, yeah, no, I think you're right, this is awkward shape, or yeah,
yeah.
and then
But I do think that also is because it's coming from a place of love and honoring the other person's skills and talent as an artist, right? Like you learned that in school, but it's been a long time since you have that really critical kind of feedback. And I think the other
yeah,
thing I liked as well, I think part of my favorite moments is I'm thinking back when we were creating at the cottage, and we were so blessed to have incredible weather, so we were able to work outside on that huge deck. But to be able to
yeah.
start to put the pairs together and sit back with a coffee and a Bailey's and just, really spend some time looking at them together and how they played off each other. And I think that was also valuable to have that time.
Oh, it was so important. I think they would have been a lot less connected if we hadn't spent that time to sort of finish them not in situ, but at least
Yeah.
together. Yeah,
And I think
I
that comes back to
agree.
probably one of my biggest challenges is not really understanding how you work. We've worked together, like you said, playing. I thought I had a good understanding of what your process was. And especially when you first started working on some of those, the pale pink ones and stuff, and you'd send me the picture. I'm like, okay, great. I've got a sense now of the color palette you're using, the shapes of the trees, and I'll try and work through that. And then the next time I saw the painting, it was completely different. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm not sure if it works together anymore.
Yeah,
So I
it's so
learned to be
true.
patient.
Yeah, because you cover very little of your, like when I could see your base coat covered, I knew basically, or not basically, but I had a really good sense of where you were
Yeah,
going to be going. But with mine, it's so true. They usually do start out really wowy and like, oh, and then I knock them back quite a bit and cover a lot of that stuff over. So yeah, that would have been
yeah.
challenging.
But I
Yeah,
did like how you kept some of that wowy color. I
yeah,
just
I
felt for
like.
me it like what you were saying before about kind of just following your own style. I think that's where I ran into trouble because I was kind of constantly trying to, oh, and now she's changed this and now it looks like that, so now I'll modify my piece a bit. And because of the fact that so little of my canvas is covered, like you were saying, about maybe 20-25% max, and because it's on the wood, I can't pull it back. I felt like I was painting myself into a corner that I was having a hard time navigating myself out of as I saw your new works come about.
Yeah.
So I probably did most of my stuff in the last part of the sort of 5 weeks or whatever, versus I think a lot of yours where you worked over the full year, I think. So I don't know if I lost you or yeah. I don't know. Can you see me? Do I have, it looks like our connection's been a bit quirky. Oh, looks like we may be losing Helen a bit. Or maybe she just doesn't want to talk to me anymore. Hey, okay, I lost you for a bit there. Is it better now? I think you may have to disconnect and come back. I don't know. If someone's who's watching, if they can tell me if it's me or if it's Helen, because I'm seeing that you're fuzzy. Hang on. Can you hear me, Helen? I can't hear you at all. Okay, so Helen's disconnected. We're going to bring her back on. Sorry about that. It's been a while since we've had these issues, but hey, I guess it always happens this way. Yeah, Diana, yeah, it was really interesting that we were kind of trying to be a bit too different, and then that ended up being a much more challenging thing to do. I think it's good. I think you learn that way, but it's a lot of pressure when you're trying to modify your style a little bit at the same time that you're doing a show that you know you have to put up and it has to be presentable. You can't just play. Helen's supposed to be coming back on board, so I don't know what's happened with her Wi-Fi. She's gone. Yes, Danielle, she has gone. Are you back? Can you hear me? I can't hear you. All right. Well, we don't really know who the issue is. I can't see you. Okay, she's gone again. So sorry about that. Well, we'll wait for her to come back. We had, so yeah, it was, it reminded me a little bit of the collaboration I did with Lisa Hickey at the very beginning of COVID. So Helen sent me a request to be live again. I will, of course, accept that request. And hopefully she comes back. And now, of course, completely lost track of what we've talked about, what we've said. Hey!
I just put my Wi-Fi on because I guess the data wasn't cooperating. So
yeah,
I think
it was good for a while, and then it just cut out. So maybe you just ran up to. Sorry,
and I could just see myself anyway.
So yeah, unfortunately too, I now can't remember where we left off in the conversation. I don't know what we were talking about now. Whatever. So, but I was sharing a little bit about at the beginning of COVID, Lisa Hickey and I decided to work on a COVID collaboration, and we had a 48 by 48 that we both worked on. And I think one of the challenges with that is the you feel really badly painting over something that someone else has done. So I have to say I did like the fact that in the end we were able to work on our own pieces to kind of make them strong, especially given the fact that we're already dealing with distance and modifying your style a bit. And at the end of the day, we had this show we had to do. So it wasn't like we could afford for them to look like crap, right? Like, it wasn't purely like an experimental play scenario where it's just like, hey, that was super cool. The work is horrible, but I really enjoyed it, It
was a great process. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it had to be an efficient, great process that ended up with great work, which I personally think it did. Yeah.
It's so true. I've worked on works like that too, and everyone skirts around the edges of the picture. Like nobody wants to just like get in there and make some bold moves,
Yeah, yeah. And I think that's hard. Like I think that it would be interesting to do something like that. Like I think when we do our residency in Chateau Orcabo, I am really looking forward to working on a piece together that is truly collaborative. And I think that the nice thing about that is I think there's a freedom there in terms of it doesn't matter if it looks something completely different from what we always do. So I think we can really jump into the full collaboration piece.
Yeah, I'm excited about that too.
It's going to be good.
And working with different materials. Yeah,
I know, like kinetic stuff. Anyway, it's going to be a surprise. People have to watch, and we'll do lots of live videos from there. Oh, it'll be cool to actually do a talking to artists and interview some of the other people that are there too.
Yeah, that's so true.
That'd be fun.
I'm just looking at my notes to see, because one of the things I was also grateful for with our communication, ease of our communication, was that we were able to make decisions on the fly as things shifted and changed. Like we had made some pairings to go together, and then when we got them in the gallery space or at your place there at the cottage, it was just like, oh, this, these don't go as well as these ones do, even though these weren't really supposed to be the match or whatever. Like, so that was good too, to that we both were able to like not have to be rigidly sticking to our plan.
Well, especially because I think at the beginning we were forced to have a rigid plan because of the whole frames and the lack of the panels, right? So I'd say we had a pretty intense spreadsheet of which pieces were
The
going
floor
together, what sizes
plan.
they were going to
Yeah.
be, what colors they were going to be. When we realized we had too much blue, we kind of like, okay, we need to balance out of that and do some reds, which were, for both of us, I think our problem children were the red
Yeah.
ones. I mean, I was so happy with the way they turned out and the way they looked together, but oh my God, I feel like I spent a lot of time on those three that went together.
That was my difficult one too, for sure. Like those two, because as I said before, I usually base out and then I cover up that base coat so much, but we had sort of resolved they were going to be quite red, and so I didn't want to do my usual process. So that was unusual too.
Well, and for me as well, because red is a color I don't work with very often. Like, so again, it was another situation where we intentionally said, okay, let's push ourselves out of our comfort zone and work with something that is not a color we normally work with. And then I was also trying to kind of match the shapes of your trees in that same sort of that flowy pattern that you kind of have with them. And so, yeah, I think that one was a challenge to have to kind of redo and rework. And in the end, I remember when we hung it in the gallery, it was quite amazing how mine was in the center and two of Helen's were on either side, like a triptych. But I loved how the fact that the wave kind of flowed into your trees, which then went into the ground, which kind of curved over to the third piece. And that was really cool, that harmony.
Yeah, that was really cool. Yeah, and it's kind of neat. Oh, I was just going to say, speaking of harmony, like you developed a new series. Was it directly because of this show called Harmony?
It was. I was kind of looking to do something a little bit different, and it was also about this show because of the fact that your stuff is much more representational of nature, and so I was looking to try and do something a bit more representational. And so I did work on those pieces, and it was sort of for me, it was a combination of incorporating some of the harmony pieces into our family garden, and then some of the energy and motion, which I just always love to do. Like they just make me happy.
I like both of those. But I wasn't sure whether you had already developed the harmony. I guess you had already developed that series.
Well, I was in the process of developing it before this show, because originally. Originally we were really started seriously talking about it, I think.
It was supposed to be in June, but then
the show was supposed to be in June.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I couldn't get the panel, so we couldn't do it in June. Plus, I think we also, it's fun to have an opening where people can come, and it was still
seriously locked down. Yeah.
Yeah. It was still a little bit locked down, but at least we were able to have the show in the gallery and have people there, which was really great. But yeah, so I started that, I would say in January of last year. With the hope/intent that it would be part of our family garden. But I wasn't sure whether or not it would fully develop in time.
Yeah.
So, and I think the one that I'm probably the most proud of, that I like the best, is the one that's on the gold background, the Look Up, Fly Away, that we both have the same name for the pair. And someone asked if we sold them as a pair, and we didn't. And I really wish somebody had bought that pair, because I love those two together. I felt like my shape followed your shape. The gold, you sort of had picked up in your background as well. And I felt like the harmony collection design components or whatever, sort of really came together for me in that one.
Yeah, those were a nice pair. Yeah, it was cool to see them all. I think the framing was a good choice too, because they really just, I don't know, just brought it all up a level or something. And then it also tied in so nicely with the white trim around the gallery windows, existing windows.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. And that whole concept of the family garden being not only family component with you and I and our grandmother and our parents and stuff, but I did like the idea of it looking into a garden. So they all look like windowsills as you're looking out into the garden. And I have to say, when you first suggested it, I'm like, oh my God, that just seems like so overwhelming to do all that. But I'm kind of addicted to the framing now. I just love it.
They did such a great job for us. Yeah.
Yeah, that was day and night. And it's funny because I heard from Marjolaine, and she's like, is that why my frames are delayed? And I'm like, we had like 22 frames or whatever that had to be done really fast.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think they, It looked fabulous.
Yeah.
So that was good.
So were
And
there any takeaways for you of little challenges that you had that developed into like, oh, actually, I think I might be doing this in the future?
I think one of the biggest things I think was the shape, because I don't usually work in that shape, like the long skinny. And so I did enjoy that, and I really liked seeing them together. I think the framing for sure is a takeaway for me that I really I loved kind of the fact that it all pulled it together. Um, I think that it was really the other part is interesting watching you work with the multiple layers, and I do that as well. But I think that I'm kind of interested in, and I just did probably with the silver, the foggy dew one, where I
Right.
had the colors and then they didn't work. And normally I'm kind of stuck with that. And because of watching the way you work with being able to just kind of overlayer, then I kind of like washed it out in silver and overlaid it with almost like other colors. And it looks, I think to me, it looked a little bit three-dimensional. And
Yeah.
it looks amazing in Sandra's home. Like she put it just in this photo of it in the guest room. So I think that was it too, is that sometimes to be a little bit less precious about the background, because I find I get a little bit like, I love this piece of wood grain. I'm like, well, sometimes you can love it, but sometimes it's got to go.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Oh, that's
I think that
cool.
was probably my takeaway.
Yeah.
Yeah, which I think I'll kind of continue to sort of work through that. But I think the biggest takeaway for me is just being able to talk to you about art and about processes and about plans and dreams of what to do next for such an extended period of time. It allowed me to talk it through kind of in my head. And I'm really quite interested in doing a bit more overlaying with some of my color field, like going back to a collection I haven't done for a while. And because of that play of going back in and recovering and building the paint,
Yeah.
and the other part of it would be figurative. Like I think we both talked about kind of that desire to do figure. Well, you've always done figurative work. I really haven't, so I'm kind of
It's been a long time. I feel like I'm really out of practice, but yeah.
yeah. I'm super out of practice. I know I was doing some sketching, which I don't usually sketch. I'm just not really a sketchbook person. I'm like, oh, this is why I don't sketch because it's proof of how shitty I am at this now. but
Oh. One
but I
thing I
think that'd be
liked
fun.
about, oh, sorry, I was going to say that the wash of the silver that you did over top of that painting, the foggy dew one, it was hard to see on the camera, but I really liked how it was such a thin wash and that those fluorescents and really hot, bright colors were really kind of subtly popping through under there. So I like
Yeah.
that for my own work. I love making it really loud and colorful and then knocking it back because I feel like it sort of radiates some light from within the painting when it's like that.
Yeah. And it's funny because I remember years ago doing that. I was doing a like an underwater painting, and the colors of the petals were just too stark and too dramatic. So I took a turquoise wash and washed over it, and it really did look like you're in the ocean, and those things were further away from the light, so they kind of were still a little bit sparkly like those fish. But so yeah, so
Yeah.
that's the other. I kind of remember sometimes you do these things as a one-off to solve a problem, and you don't really incorporate it into your practice. And I think that I agree. I think it's something I might incorporate a bit more.
Yeah.
So I think it would be kind of fun. So yeah, and so then unfortunately the show looked great, and thank you for everybody who kind of came down to the openings and came down to the gallery to see the work. It was really wonderful for people to see it in real life. And then of course we had to split them, which was a little
Yeah.
unfortunate because I love them together, but your work looked so amazing at PI as the feature artist. So that's
Thank you.
incredible.
Yeah. I couldn't even believe it myself. I thought they looked so different in a different space and that is a cool thing about art, isn't it? That you put it in a different space and it transforms the painting somehow too.
hmm Now, so another question I had for you is because obviously working in Vancouver, a lot of your trees tend to be like the one behind you right now, very mossy.
Yeah.
But the show is in Ontario, which doesn't have those trees. So did you find that you had to modify your trees or your what you were painting?
Well, ironically, that series of those pink trees were inspired by the road to the family cottage in Kingston. So I mean, I just used it as touch point or as a starting point, and didn't stay super faithful to it. After being there, I was like, it doesn't look really that the same. It's grown up a lot since I,
Yeah.
but yeah, so I tried to make more Ontario, a bit more Ontario trees, but I'm trying to not be too rigidly knocking back on the moss, because I've had some success selling them as well, even in the States and places where they don't have those mossy trees. So I'm just gonna go with the way, I don't know. I'm trying not to think about it too much, but
Yeah. No, I think that's cool. I mean, I think they definitely look like they kind of can fit anywhere. So that's perfect, right?
yeah, and maybe
I
if
think
they don't have those, they would like them because they are sort of a bit more, I don't know, I think of them as being sort of the original tree, like the primordial forest or something, like
like the
really
grandfathers.
of the earth. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And I love the fact that when, again, with those red ones, is you're just like, I'm just going to paint these two trees here that were just outside in the cottage by the deck. And so I think for me, those will always have a little bit of a place in my heart, because they're kind of the trees outside the studio at the cottage as you're painting plein air, which is
Yeah.
also kind of really neat because I don't usually do that.
Yeah, that was fun. Just use that reference right there.
Hmm. So did you have anything else that you wanted to talk about
Well,
in
one
your
thing
notes?
I was really grateful to discover along the way, and it wasn't directly related to the fact that it was our show, but more a little bit to do with COVID and the scarcity of materials. And I had this black gesso. I had run out of gesso, and
Right.
so I used black gesso for one of my pictures, and it kind of led to a new series for me too. So I think it's kind of
Yeah.
cool that we both evolved a new series through this work.
Hmm. Well, and that was
Yeah.
a funny one too, because that was really dramatic, like quite a bit more graphic than your usual stuff. Like I felt it was actually probably closer to mine than your traditional. Like it was easier for me to take that piece and extrapolate what I was going to do with it. So then I was working on these black backgrounds, and then you sold that piece, right?
I know, yeah.
Which is great before the show. But
Yeah. So then I had
yeah,
to
I got
make
that.
another one. Yeah.
Yeah, which was really fun. Yeah, and then that's where we, I think, played with working on those colors, kind of pulling in some of those bright pinks and cadmium yellows and stuff like that, which is
Yeah.
cool.
And those light turquoises I just love with the black.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The other thing I did love too is that in following on to that series, you did a number of tondos, circles in those in the black. And I've always wanted to do a bubble wall. And I liked the idea with the show, with in curating it, that everything else about the show was very rigid, like 60 inches high. They sat in pairs. It was very rigid, which I think really
Linear.
allowed, yeah, and it really allowed the fluidity of the colors and the shapes and stuff to really really shine. But I think that what I loved is then having the bubble wall, which was so organic and non-linear and non-traditional.
Yeah.
I think looked
And
awesome.
just,
I love that.
yeah, that was
Yeah,
cool. They're almost like
yeah,
little pebbly at the Granny Granddad's cottage. They had those round um, stepping stones
yeah, yeah,
and different sizes. And yeah, it kind of reminded me of that, just
yeah.
stepping
And I think
through
that
the,
I know, and I think I love the fact that they not only were on that wall, but it probably you couldn't really see it from the photo, but they kind of came around the corner and up to the other wall too, like truly like they were just bubbles
yeah, that
rising
was neat.
from the
And the different
primordial
sizes.
forest. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I'd like to do some more of those. I think that was a cool thing. So that was the other thing I think that I liked, because I'd only really done the tondos for the Pirate Squared show,
Me too.
and
Yeah.
so it was really fun to do more of them, and just how your composition changes when you're working on a circle versus a square.
Yeah, they were fun.
Yeah,
And I liked that they were all different sizes too.
yeah. So you did some what, 4x4s, so 4-inch ones
Yeah, some little
was the
teeny ones and
smallest.
then right up to 30. I think your
Yeah,
biggest one
I
was
think mine
30
was
by
30.
30.
Yeah, yeah, that was fun. So yeah, for people looking who are looking for something different to do, like I wish I had an empty wall in my house actually, because I think it would be really neat. Well, I've got a few bubbles. Maybe I can make a
Well,
bubble
pi
wall.
art squared.
Yeah, yeah, need different sizes now though.
Right. Yeah.
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 And
And
I
my
noticed that,
bubbles did go on to PI, I'm going to call it Pi Art, PI Gallery there. So yeah, you can see some of those there.
yeah, and some of mine from my 60-inch ones from Family Garden have moved to Petrov Gallery because I'm the feature artist at Petrov starting today or tomorrow, maybe
Woo!
tomorrow. I know, so that's kind of nice to see your babies kind of move into a different place.
Yeah.
But harder for
And
people to
lots
buy
of
the two together.
color. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
So
yeah. I guess we don't have on either of our websites. I do have on my website pictures of the show with those paintings together. So if people were curious to see how they looked together, I guess they could go and buy them
yeah,
independently, put them
well,
together.
yeah, and me too. I have mine on my photo album. There's a number of them too because
Oh,
I just
good.
think. Because I think the other thing that was important for me, which I think we actually did, we did a really, really shitty job of promoting our original opening. So that was a lesson learned that, even though you're
Yeah.
really busy doing the work, you gotta let people know you're doing the work and you let them know you have
Yeah.
an opening. So that was a bit sad.
Yeah.
It was just too fast. Like I think my takeaways would be, first of all, you got to market, and that was really followed on me since Toronto was my hometown, so I should have done more there. But I think the other thing is it was just way too much to have finished hanging the show on the same day that you're having the opening, and we were still doing labels, and it was really stressed. So
Yeah.
and also it was on a pretty key Jewish holiday, so that was also stupid and unintentionally disrespectful. So I think I actually enjoyed our second opening more because I think that we actually had time to enjoy it and absorb it and promote it properly.
Yeah.
But that would
It's
be a
so
lesson
true.
learned.
Yeah, I do. I did feel a bit that it was a bit too bad that we had done so much work and brought it together, and it looked so beautiful. But then it was over, and we were on to the next show because there was another show we were doing that same weekend, and so it wasn't. We didn't really have that time to really percolate and process our accomplishment that actually had been months long of
I
so
know.
that was something I
Yeah.
would do differently in the future as well as I kind of liked that time afterwards of just kind of sitting. It would have been so nice just like sit in that gallery and just take it in and kind of process and visualize maybe the next thing.
Well, and I think too, the original concept, we were going to have kind of bring in more of the five senses and the floral kind of elements, like
That's right.
with scent and with pebbles and things like that. Which during COVID, it just became really impractical to do with people touching things. And I think the thought was that we were going to do like an artist talk in the space and maybe do meditation or something because a lot of the work really kind of is about green bathing and surrounding yourself with nature, right? So, some of those things kind of just practically had to go by the wayside.
Yeah, that's true.
But for next
Next time.
time, yeah.
Exactly.
Well, and I think the other thing too is that we never expected that every single show that was supposed to happen in the whole summer was supposed to happen in September, right? So it was
Hmm.
a little bit unexpected too to have them all kind of bouncing off each other like that. But anyway, I think that one of the things we did do well, I was going to say, and I think it's really important when you're going to build something is to kind of, and I think this is the final chapter of it, this interview is really doing a good job of documenting it. So documenting the work kind of that was coming up to it and documenting the kind of the show itself. And, we did a live opening, which was, we were able to talk about the pieces and then all the photographs, I think in the pairs as well as individually. So I do feel like we've got a really good record of the show, which I think is great because sometimes you move so
Yeah.
quickly, then you're like, oh my gosh, I didn't take enough pictures or pictures I have are out of
Yeah.
focus or
That's so true. Yeah.
whatever. So anyway, that was kind of something I was happy about.
Yeah, I agree. Um, I'm just seeing my notes to see if there's anything else
Yeah.
I had wanted to talk about.
Well, and I
But
guess if anybody has any questions, they can put them in the chat too. We normally don't. I normally don't do that because these are more one-way interviews, but this is a bit more of a a casual babbling chat.
yes.
So
Yeah.
what are you working on next?
Well, I'm getting everything packed up to send off to the Art Comes Alive in Cincinnati. I think you already sent your package.
I did yesterday. Yep.
Yeah, so it's really getting down to the wire. So everything's ready. I'm going to do that today, and then I've got to get started on some commissions. So
Yeah,
yeah, I'm excited
that's
to.
good.
It was really nice to get. Yesterday was actually the first day I really got into my studio, and it's been a long time. So it felt so good to just organize and get reacquainted, and
Yeah,
yeah.
I did paperwork all day yesterday because that's of course the other important part of an
That's what I
artist's job.
have been doing since I've been home. I feel like I was
Yeah.
just on the computer and all that stuff and really hankering to get down and get messy. So
Yeah,
I did some
yeah,
yesterday.
no, me too. I'm probably doing that today because I did dropped off a commissioned piece of his resin yesterday, so which
Oh,
looks
nice.
amazing. So I'm
The
so happy to
pink,
have that one.
the pink
Yeah,
one.
yeah.
Yeah.
And Angela came and helped me hang it, which was great because it was really heavy. So I needed help there. But yeah, now I've got time to just kind of play. I'll probably go to Art Alchemy, which is the first time in, God, probably over a year that I've actually gone there to work. So that would be kind of nice too.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're going to have to totally reorganize and reclaim.
Yeah. Well, we'll see. There's not much there. It's pretty open. It's pretty empty. So, okay. I think that's kind of all that my lessons learned, lots of them. And I would really love to do something like this again.
Yeah.
Hopefully not during COVID, where we can really incorporate maybe, I don't know, I've always been really keen on incorporating more of the senses, like making it a bit more kinetic as well as just the 2D art or something would be kind of
I
fun.
love that idea of having it more of an experience than just
Hmm.
uh, a little bit more activated experience rather than so passively just viewing
Yeah,
whatever. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Well, and especially with COVID having it just that much more step removed, where a lot of it's just virtually on the screen. But yeah, I think that would be kind
Yeah.
of fun. And I am looking forward to, our collaborative combined residency at
Residency.
Chateau
Yeah. That would be
Archibald too.
amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, that will be amazing.
We're
I
going
don't
to
think we
have
have
to
the
do
dates
some
yet.
experimenting with some of the materials we've talked about before we go so that we will.
I don't
Oh,
know.
I see.
Yeah,
I
I don't
just
know.
went
Like I
saying,
was thinking
oh,
about that. Yeah. I was thinking about that, and I was wondering if there's a value in doing the prep ahead of time or literally going cold and just experimenting completely as you're there. So that's a
I don't
personality
know.
difference, I think.
Well, no, the reason I thought that is just because we only have 2 weeks. So it feels
Yeah.
like that goes so fast, and we might overestimate how much we can get accomplished while we're actually there.
Would that be a dig at me? Because I always overestimate what I can accomplish in a short period of time. Yeah,
Yeah,
no, that's
well,
true.
I don't
It's
know.
it's going to be fun. So we will definitely keep everybody posted. But it was great I really missed you, and it was great to spend so much time with you. I love you so much, and
Yes, it's been so good.
I'm really happy we were able to kind of just close up the show with kind of our lessons learned that we can then kind of drive forward into future work.
Yeah, thank you for having me. And yeah, it was a great experience, and I look forward to the next one.
Yes. Okay. Sounds great. Okay. We'll talk to you
Okay,
later.
bye. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
I
And
don't,
so just I think you can just shut yourself off. But so next week I'm on vacation, so I am not going to be here. I'm going to probably just be chilling at my cottage, doing some painting. I don't know. Or maybe I won't. Maybe I'll just be chopping wood and digging my garden. The week after that, we've got Steve Martin, who, if you guys have seen any of the fun pictures on Instagram where he actually insets the artist into a piece of their work, then that's his work, and he also does some pretty amazing, bold, bright abstracts. So looking forward to seeing that work. Then we've got Andy McGough. Not sure how to pronounce his name, so Andy, I do apologize. So we'll look forward to talking to him and seeing his work. And after that, Julia Whitney Barnes, and she does cyanotypes, I believe they're called, with the sun. And so pretty excited about that. I am looking for more artists. If people are interested, or if you know of anybody who you think would be interested in being on Talking to Artists, let me know. I'm always super excited to talk to new people, especially people I don't know, because that's always fun. And for past interviews, you can definitely go on Facebook or youtube.com/Kate Taylor Art. Everything should be updated there now, so that's great. And if you can subscribe, leave comments, stuff like that would be great to help me to improve it. And, you know, the podcast is pretty much still where it was last week. So I have not added any more podcasts to that, but I'm working on it. So anyway, have a fabulous day, and we will see you 2 weeks from now. Okay, bye-bye. And oh, don't forget to check out the feature shows at PI for Helen and Petrov for myself.